Thank you very much. I want to thank all of you for being here today. Thank you. Thank you. This is just a wonderful tribute to our good friend, Rich Collato, and I know the Collato family is very appreciative. It's just wonderful to see so many friends, after a period of COVID where we've been distanced from each other, to be able to come together and celebrate the life of Rich Collato is really a blessing. I worked for Rich Collato for quite some time. I have been with the YMCA professionally for 43 years, retired now 10. And of that period of time, it was 39 years with Rich Collato, so I know him pretty well. And looking forward to sharing some moments with you. We've got some great speakers, and we're going to do a good job of keeping this uplifting. I think, like most of you, it's been a real challenge to kind of work through the shock of losing Rich. And it's difficult. We all have times of sadness and times when we feel joy for having known him. Those two emotions often run close together, and they probably will today. I was walking around my house and thinking about what I was going to say, and my wife looked at me and she says, "Are you taking any Kleenex with you?" And I said, "No, if I get a tear in my eye, I'll just kind of go like that." And she says, "Well, what are you going to do if your nose starts running? Are you going to go like that, like that?" Well, I decided to bring the Kleenex. So my point being that we do have those emotions, and it's okay. So feel comfortable being here with your friends. We'll enjoy the time together. At this point, I'd like to introduce Bill Davis. He's going to kind of tag team me with this. He's going to give a little welcome to you and kind of continue the program. Thank you, Bill.
Hi. Does this mask make my ears look fat? I think I'll take it off. Yeah, as Dick said, I'm Bill Davis. I had the privilege of working for the YMCA for 39 years, and 35 of those years were working with Rich. Now, I don't know if that says a lot about Rich or a lot about me or the fact I couldn't find other work, but I had 35 years with a great man. I also, during that time, met Sam and Dick, and we became a good foursome and spent a lot of years together serving the YMCA. And precious friendship developed from that. In the Hebrew tradition, there's a process of recognizing significant events in the life of the Hebrew people, and it's called the Stone of Remembrance. And it was just a simple stone that carried with it the memory of what took place at a certain place and how God provided for them. It was also a way to pass on a story to further generations. Today is kind of a stone of remembrance honoring the life of Rich Collato. And we're grateful that you're here to celebrate and remember a life well lived and a life taken too soon. We're glad that you're here. Thanks for being a part of that stone of remembrance. Actually, Dick. Back to Dick.
Amos Johnson is a pretty special fellow. When he was 10 years old, he was part of the YMCA of Southeast San Diego. He grew up in that area, and he knows it was 10 years. He was in the 5th grade, but he's got a certificate of leadership that was given to him for a class that he took with the YMCA way back then. Amos got into the ministry. He was in seminary, and he volunteered to work with the YMCA. He was a leader with the Gray Y. And in 1974, he was finished with his study, and he was called to be the pastor at New Creation Church in San Diego. And about that same time, he was asked if he would be a member of the board of the Jackie Robinson YMCA, and he agreed to do that. Now, Amos has been with the Jackie Robinson YMCA board for 46 years. Can you imagine that? 46 years with the Jackie Robinson Y. And in his humble way, he said, if God will allow it, and I can be there for another 4 years, that'll be a perfect 50. Isn't that a great attitude? Yeah, that's Amos Johnson. I call out Amos to ask him if he'd come up and give us and lead us in the invocation and also say a few words. So Amos, welcome. It's great to have you here.
It's my pleasure to be here today. Thank you so much. I'm reminded today of a story about little Johnny. Little Johnny was late coming home from school one day. I mean, really late. And so when he finally made it home, his mother was just beside herself. And she says, "Johnny, where have you been? I mean, we've been looking all over for you. We've been calling around and everything. Where have you been?" He says, "I was with Billy." "What do you mean you were with Billy?" "Well, Billy's bike broke down and I was with him." And she says, "What do you mean you were with him?" She says, "I was helping him." She says, "Johnny, you don't know a thing about fixing bicycles." He says, "I know, but I was helping him cry." And I want the family to know today that we're here not because we know how to, fix broken hearts, but we're here to help you cry. Because we also have a open wound in our own hearts. Before I do the invocation, I'd like to share with you another little story about Susie. Now, Susie was in the kindergarten, and one day her teacher, Mrs. Jones, said to the class, "Take out your drawing pads and your crayons and draw a picture, anything you want." And then she went around the room to check on the kids. And when she got to Susie's desk, she saw Susie was enthusiastically just coloring away, with putting all the colors in there, and she said to Susie, "Susie, what are you drawing?" And she says, "This is a picture of God." And the teacher kneeled down and whispered to Susie. She says, "Dear, nobody knows what God looks like." And she says, "I know, that's why I'm in a hurry to get this finished." I submit to you today that little Susie and Rich had at least two things in common. One, they believed firmly in God, and two, they believed they were about God's work. I bet every one of you have heard Rich say many times that the work of the YMCA was God's work. And it was that vision and dedication to God that gave him the passion to work so hard, certainly here in San Diego, to make our association one of the best in the world. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for enabling us to gather here today to celebrate a life well lived. We thank you for Rich's love and friendship. We ask, dear Lord, that you would comfort each of us as we remember the impact that Rich had upon our lives. Help us to remember the good times which we spent with him and the ways in which he inspired us by words and deeds. Also, dear Lord, help us to use the lessons which we have learned from Rich to better fulfill the purpose you have for us here on earth and bring glory and honor to your name. We too, one day would like to hear the Master say, as we're sure you've said to Rich, "Well done, thy good and faithful servant. Come and take your rest." We make this prayer trusting in the mercies of God, and let the people of God say, Amen.
Thank you, Amos. You always have such wonderful words and comforting words, and I appreciate you being here and leading us. I'd like to take a little bit of time and just recognize the Collato family that is here with us today. Kathy, his wife of 47 years, is here. Daughter Brandy, son Chris, daughter-in-law Stephanie, who are the parents of Zoe and Scarlett. And by the way, if you need a little cuteness in your life, come check out Zoe and Scarlett. Where's Scarlett? Is she here? Yeah, there she is. All right. Richard's sister Fran is here. Niece Lisa and her children, Marco and Sophia. And they are all glad that you are here to be a part of the celebration of Rich. You know, Kathy, one could say that you have a lot of jewels in your heavenly crown for being married to Rich for 47 years. But you are blessed with a wonderful life together and built a strong and loving family of which she was so very proud. Before we go on to hear some other people, I'd like to just kind of lay a little groundwork about the four of us. The four of us meaning Rich, Dick, Sam, and myself. We found a great friendship in working together. It started as a working relationship at the San Pedro YMCA in the 80s. We got along so well that we were really almost dangerous with each other. And by that I'm speaking mostly of the influence of Sam Wurzbacher. Rich was our boss, a tough one at times, but he also became our mentor and good friend. Rich knew his role, and so he avoided some of the camaraderie that we had. Is that a good word for what we did, camaraderie? Huh? I think so. But then he would tell us that it was tough to hoot with the owls at night and soar with the eagles in the morning. He knew his place. Rich helped us to be better. A quote from Andrew Carnegie said that men are developed in the same way that gold is. When gold is mined, several tons of dirt must be removed to get an ounce of gold. But one doesn't go into the mine looking for dirt. One goes in the mine looking for gold. Rich looked for gold in people. And when he found it, he nourished it. And he found it, I think, in us. We felt like he did. Rich didn't try to change us, but he did challenge us. He wanted us to be better. He recognized that each of us had potential and a unique role to play on the team. And he played to each of our individual gifts and talents on that team. Rich never settled for anything that I'm aware of, and he set high standards. And when those standards weren't being met, Rich was very willing to share with us the hard truth. And when that happened, it was always behind closed doors. And when the door opened, all was well. We were all on the same team, and we were still the best of the best. I'd like to bring up Sam Wurzbacher right now, but before he comes, to tell you a little bit about Sam. He's probably known Rich the longest of anyone here, other than Rich's sister Fran. Sam and Rich first met when Sam walked into the Huntington Beach YMCA, where Rich held his first executive director job. Now, I know that YMCA, and so what that means is Rich also cleaned the toilets at that YMCA as the executive director. Sam needed some volunteer hours working at Golden West College, and he walked in looking for a place to serve. Having no other help, Rich welcomed Sam in open arms. Sam later followed Rich to San Diego, where he served as the executive director of the La Jolla YMCA for 20 years, this way here. Sam and Rich became best of friends, and the Wurzbachers and Collatos developed into extensions of each other's families to this day. Sam.
Thanks, Bill. I may expand a little bit on that, but Brandy, as I promised, I'm going to keep under 3 minutes and 59 seconds. You know, God has a remarkable way of putting people in your life at a moment that you need them the most. I grew up in a broken and dysfunctional family with little direction and encouragement from an adult role model. Rich became my role model in my early 20s over 50 years ago. As Bill mentioned, he was a young, new, first-time executive director of a non-facility YMCA in Huntington Beach, freshly transplanted out of Brooklyn, New York. We had an instant bond from that first day that we met, which was in my second semester of junior college when I needed to earn class credits towards a physical education degree. When I met Rich at the Y that first day, he said he could use my services, but was firm on me volunteering. Whenever he could cut costs, he did. That was Rich, always finding a way to save money, back then, still today. He invited me to attend a staff meeting later in the day to meet his paid staff and to find out what my volunteer assignment would be. I told him that I would prefer to be paid, but I agreed reluctantly to attend. Now, what he didn't know, that a couple weeks earlier at school, I noticed a girl in my chemistry lab that I fell head over heels for. So much so, I was determined to meet her and ask her out at my next lab class the following day. But she never showed up to class. So I skipped class and I ran all over campus to find her. But she was nowhere to be found. I was bummed. Now, flash forward, you might be guessing that when I reluctantly showed up to that staff meeting, she was there, and you're right. At the conclusion of that meeting, I went up to Rich and said, hey, I'll volunteer as many hours as you want me to volunteer, as long as you assign me to the same after-school site that she's at. And Rich smiled and said, you got it. From that day on, Rich became my best friend, mentor, boss, and most important to me, an older brother figure who was always there for me. He believed in me and he put trust in me. He shaped my development as a young YMCA professional and taught me to be more aware and appreciative of what we have and value in life. Most importantly, in those early years, he inspired me to take a fresh look at my attitude towards life and to be the best I could be. The many lessons I learned from him are ones that I continue to serve me well today. Rich was also a guy with a great sense of humor, always ready with a joke, street smart, and at times displayed some salty and stern language to get his point across. He had a unique ability to meet and inspire people that became friends. The fact that we are here today is a testament to his broad reach and impact that he had on all of our lives. And there were times over the years that we were geographically distant, but he never stopped from reaching out and asking me how I was doing and how and what he could do to help me and my family in so many countless ways. In many ways, he was bigger than life, an inspirational leader, a loving husband, a caring dad, a papa to his grandchildren, a dedicated brother, an uncle who had a generous heart and spirit. I am so grateful to have him as a lifelong friend. I will always treasure the great memories, special times, and adventures we had over the years. Rich, you gave us so much to celebrate you for, and we are so blessed and richer to have you in our lives. In closing, I feel good to know that your body is renewed in heaven. As you know, we joked a few times about dyeing our hair, and now that your hair is back to black, I decided this week to dye my hair in honor and remembrance of you and our commitments to stay young. And so now, I'd like to take my hats off to you, Rich. You will be missed, but never forgotten. At least for me, I'll remember you every hour of every day in the next couple of months until my hair grows in. My hair gray grows in. I love you, man.
You know, Rich really believed in relationships. That was very important to him. He thought about people all the time and thought about ways in which he could get close to them. Not just in a working environment, but in everything that he did. Close personal relationships. One example of that is that Rich, every time there was a new board chairman, that was about every third year, about every 2 years of assignment as a board chairman, Rich would get with the new chairman and they'd go and they'd visit all the YMCA's, about 15 different branches. And that was a time when Rich they would go out to visit and they'd meet with the chairman of the branch board and the executive director. And that was a lot of commitment, 15 different meetings, traveling all over the county, probably including the meeting, the tours, and all the things they did, about, you know, better than half a day, maybe 3/4 of a day with each one of those. So in the first 3 months of a new chairman's experience, he was getting quite an orientation on the YMCA. And that was so important to Rich, because he would tell me, you know, one of the most important things I need to do right now is to build a strong working relationship with the chairman of the board. Because in doing that, we model for our whole association the importance of quality relationships. And so he would use that time, that time in the car. He had a captured audience. He would use that time to get close, to get personal with each of those chairmen. And then when they got to the Y, they would meet with the board chairman and with the executive, and they'd share the fact that they felt so good about the work that was being done. Rich was always very, very appreciative of his staff and of his volunteers. And so this experience that I had time after time over about a 3-month period was really a great orientation for a new board chairman coming in. They got to talk about the dreams and the plans for the YMCA, and the chairman and Rich would listen to those plans and ask questions. They took real interest. Rich knew that if you pushed responsibility down to the local operations, if you got them close to the decision-making process, they would have ownership. And so that's what he did. He took a chance. Everything that he did there was not just top-down. It wasn't just by compliance that you did things. Rich gave people the opportunity to explore and to discover and to create new visions for the YMCA. And I think that's why we had such strong branch boards, is because they owned it. They owned the vision. They raised more money because they owned the vision. It was part of who they were. And so these meetings became set up. Relationships were built. Rich and his board chairman were a model of success to share with all the different chairmen and executive directors. It was also a commitment on the part of these branches, because they'd share their stories. They felt good that the top people of the YMCA of San Diego County were coming out to visit with them, but they also felt a very big responsibility that they needed to deliver on what they said they were going to do. So it just really set the whole thing up. For Rich, it was always about relationships. There is a time when little did Rich know, the first time he met Ken Druck 35 years ago at Painter's Lodge on the Campbell River in BC, Canada, where Ken was leading a retreat for his tech group. It was there that they came together, they became the dearest of friends and trusted confidants. It was Rich who joined the board of the Jenna Druck Foundation in 1996 to help Ken honor his daughter, Jenna, who had died tragically while studying abroad. And it was Ken who Rich, the Collato family, the Y, and many of the counseling clients would turn to Ken over the years for personal and professional guidance of matters of the heart. Ken is a renowned psychologist, a coach, an author, so many things, but today he comes to be with us to honor Rich as the spiritual adopted brother of Rich Collato. Ken Druck, will you please come forward?
Let's give Dick a hand for reading out of that thing. I don't know that I could, and for all the beauty you're bringing to this celebration. Let's start with everybody who has either personally been guided, mentored, loved, supported during a hard time in your life, or somebody you love was guided, mentored, supported during a hard time in their life. Raise your hand. Now look around. We're hearing about a life well lived over and over again. And what does it really mean? Is it just a saying? Is a life well lived one we can witness as we look around at all the hands that went up, all the hearts that have been touched, all the moments of difficulty in our lives, that somebody was there, somebody solid like Rich Collato. I thought about today and I thought, I'm not sure what this is going to be and who's going to be here. But as we all milled around before we got started, I realized this is the Rich Collato family reunion. This is a family reunion. Some of us haven't seen each other in 20, 30 years, 10 years. But the love, here's Rich bringing all of us together again. So, as one of Rich's close friends, and if you look around, I could also take a roll of hands going up if I said, how many of Rich's friends became Rich's brothers? You would see hands going up all over the room. Because that's what Rich did with relationships. That's how Rich showed up in relationships. So we've come together from across the country to honor and celebrate an extraordinary life, and we know that. And in addition to the heart-opening testimonials and the priceless moments that we're going to share with one another about Rich as a mentor, friend, advisor, confidant, consultant, and co-worker, the stories that shed light on a life exquisitely lived. We're going to continue to tell those stories, just as we have from the moment we found that Rich has left this place, not this place. We're going to continue to tell those stories, generations to come. These beautiful little granddaughters are going to be hearing those stories from many of us, hopefully, as well. His journey from a young boy poolside at the YMCA in Brooklyn, New York, to the heights of visionary leadership as the CEO of one of the best YMCAs in the nation, in the world, serving as a mentor, board member, consultant to some of our nation's top businesses, being a loving father and grandfather and brother, a devoted husband of 47 years. And we've already heard about that, Kathy. More kudos. A dear friend and a community leader is something Rich would squirm listening to. Rich would say, all right, who's next? Get up. Get somebody else up there. You see, it was never about seeing his name in the credits, not Rich. Rich cared about analyzing a problem, deconstructing it, constructing an integrity-based solution, doing the right thing, and getting the job done. This was something that Rich not only mastered, it was something that he taught all of us, how he went about his business. And then there was the playfully, delightful side of Rich's nature, with Kathy, Brandy, Chris, Stephanie, and his grandchildren, his co-workers, the 4 amigos here, and the guys in his men's group. Raise your hand if you're in Ken's men's group here, the Goonies. Did you know Rich was in a men's group with Ken and Paul back there, and Dan and Robert and Dean, Pat Heineman, some of you we remember him fondly, Terry Van Arshoven, Dan Epstein, so on. Well, the side of Rich's nature that revealed his wit, his lightheartedness, his irreverence, and that boyish smile. You know what smile I'm talking about. When Rich would smile sometimes, we knew that behind this man of great intensity and seriousness and tough boss was a fun-loving troublemaker. Well, Rich Collato brought out the best in all of us. Just as Kathy, Brandy, Chris, his wife, family, and friends brought out the best in him. And I'm looking directly at all of you, especially through his hard times. None of us could have imagined that this tower of strength would suffer the health problems that would take his life at the tender age of 77. And watching the moon rise over the ocean with Kathy just weeks ago, being shaved by his son Chris, joking playfully with his daughter Brandy, who he adored, and playing with his granddaughters, Zoe and Scarlett, in his last few days, Rich was at peace, knowing how deeply he was loved by his family. As for me, I've lost a dear friend and brother. And while there will be no more lunches and sitting out on the deck, working together with clients, FaceTiming when we were with our grandkids, we will be in one another's hearts forever. I love you, Rich, with all my heart, and I feel blessed, as so many of us do and have said, to have had you as a friend, colleague, and confidant all these years. Rest in peace, my brother, knowing that you, the light you kindled within yourself as that boy in Brooklyn, brightened the lives of all of us and countless millions that you never even met. You left us in the world a smarter, better, and more joyful place.
You are an incredible man yourself and have helped so many people, myself included. And thank you for what a blessing that you are to so many and to this community and to being here today. We're not going to hear from Rich's kids, from Brandy and Chris, but before we do that, I just want to let you know that Kathy will not be speaking today. I get that. But she wishes to thank everybody for the outpouring of love and support that you have all shown to her. Kathy, after poring over cards and letters and emails, said, I don't think I ever fully appreciated how loved Richard was. So here's some words from Kathy that she'd like to share. I was still teaching first grade in Orange County when Rich moved to San Diego. I would come down on weekends to our little one-bedroom condo. I can still see him sitting in the living room chair, staring reflectively and saying, I don't know if I can save it, the why, but he obviously did. I think his greatest gift was his sense of people. He recognized the gifts and abilities in people who he could trust to accomplish everything the why was meant to accomplish. He loved people, and they loved him. Good people with a mission attract each other. Thank you, Kathy. Great words. You know, Kathy's faith is legendary. She is a woman of faith who lives it every day. and whose face shows it every day. It's a perpetual smile. What I wasn't aware of is the amount of faith that Chris and Brandy have. Let me explain. So to ask two old guys like Dick and I to help out today, when we can't even remember what we ate last night, that takes a lot of faith. First, we're going to hear from Chris, who serves as the finance manager at Qualcomm. He made Rich Papa by blessing him with two beautiful granddaughters. Following Chris is Brandy, who proudly follows in her father's footsteps, serving as the chief operating officer for the YMCA of Greater Long Beach. Chris.
Well, what do I say on a day like this? In the past few weeks, I've poured through hundreds of photos, recounted hilarious stories, and reflected on the influence my dad has had in shaping my life. I jotted them all down into notes, but I never really realized how much of a struggle it was going to be to organize my thoughts. I don't even know what my goal here is today, other than to convey that I love my dad. But not knowing what to say today has been a lot like not knowing what to pray as Dad was in the hospital. So I'll share with you a verse that my mom sent me that's given me comfort. By faith, by our faith, the Holy Spirit helps us with our daily problems and in our praying. For we don't even know what we should pray for, nor how we should pray as we should. But the Holy Spirit for us with such feeling, but the Holy Spirit prays for us with such feeling that it cannot be expressed in words. It's Romans 8:26. Lord, give me strength, give me the words. And as Dad would joke, I'll try to keep it under an hour. A lot of you have shared encouraging testimonies about how Dad took you under his wing and helped guide your career. He certainly did that for me too. Whether it was preparing for a job interview, negotiating a salary, or teaching me the value of the grind. Dad bought me my first shares of stock when I was 8 years old, McDonald's and Toys R Us. He wasn't worried about them making money or building a profitable and diverse portfolio for his kid. No. But rather than explain to me what a stock split was, he taught me through experience in real life. Whether I was 8 or 18, every business transaction or stock explanation would begin with, well, let's say you have a lemonade stand. Only now do I fully appreciate how his subtle teaching methods truly captivated my attention at a young age and taught me the joy of learning. Thanks for that, Dad. But he didn't just teach me business. He taught me life, what it means to be a loyal friend, to always finish what I started, to be kind and compassionate, to be honest and direct, how to be a servant husband, and most recently, how to be a dad myself. From a young age, my dad would send me off with the same 3 words. Be a gentleman. It could have been before a date, or a school function, or going off to play at a friend's house, but it was always the same. Be a gentleman. That simple directive continues to resonate through my life today as a work colleague, as a friend, opening the door for a lady, how I interact with my daughters, and of course, as a husband. Thanks for that, Dad. Many of you likely first knew Rich as CEO or boss or board member, but I knew him as Dad, Pops, Daddy-O, and most recently, Papa, to my 3-year-old Zoe and 9-month-old Scarlett. To this day, I cannot comprehend how my dad was able to accomplish so much professionally, while at the same time always being completely present as a father. Family has always been first, and that never wavered. And watching him evolve into his role as Papa has been one of the most rewarding and funniest experiences of my life. Just recently, Zoe's preschool report card came back, and it labeled her as the class mom and leader. Some may say bossy. But my wife, Stephanie, says she's been groomed with executive leadership skills like her papa. Zoe and Dad had such a unique, goofy, and fun-loving relationship, and that trickled down to baby Scarlett, too, as she started bumbling around on Papa's lap. This is why it's so hard to put things into words. It's all the little things that contributed to my dad as the ultimate family man. Dad has taught me how to lead my own family as a man of God, a man of integrity, a man of humility, and of course, a man of humor. Thanks for that, Dad. What's never been lost amidst his role as teacher, family man, or papa is that he has always been my friend and my best buddy. We did all sorts of things together and we had so much fun. It was at this Y where Dad taught me racquetball and how to lift weights. It's here that he took me swimming, came to watch my basketball games, and would visit me at my first job as camp counselor. I have fond memories of going to do things together, just the guys, like heading south to the downtown Y to get our haircuts from Barber Ben. And it's there that he taught me how to shoot pool and why I shouldn't get tattoos. Perhaps one of my most cherished memories was being honored to be invited on Guys Weekend in Vegas. Dad, Dick Chapel, Bill Davis, Sam Wurzbacher, Victor Boteo, and me. Observing them interact, it's so clear that their friendship is not just surface level. Their camaraderie, humor, encouragement, and support for each other is so powerful and loyal. A wonderful model of friendship to aspire to myself. Thanks for that, Dad. I'm going to miss my dad so much. I will miss being able to ask him questions. I will miss his lame jokes. I will miss him watching my girls grow up. But in a life so well lived, there is so much I am thankful for. Amidst this chapter of grief, God has steered my concentration to this. Understanding that this life on earth is finite. It is not perfect. We are not perfect. Only Jesus, his eternal plan, and his mercy are perfect. And in this wake of immense and unexpected loss, God has helped me focus on what I can be grateful for. Dad was at home on his own terms when he died. Just that week, he got to see Scarlett crawl for the first time and hear Zoe sing a new song from preschool. Stephanie and I spent his entire last day at their condo, me working remotely, and Stephanie fixing the internet. IT support. After years of crappy internet connection, I joke with my mom and Brandy, well, at least Dad died knowing that the internet was fixed. Just days before he passed, I had spent several hours helping him with a shave, a haircut, and a shower. He was all cleaned up. He and I reminisced that after the days of Barber Ben haircuts were over, Dad and I used to trim each other's hair in the driveway. To my dismay, his frequent quote was always, "Oops. Well, it'll grow back." Now, I'd like to leave you with one last story on behalf of my mom. There's a book she introduced us all to called When God Winks. When God Winks at You. It's about how God speaks directly to you through the power of coincidence. And in recent months, Dad's curiosity about his faith had peaked. And Dad had flipped through this little book. It's full of uplifting stories about when a coincidence, sometimes a silly little thing, changes the course of your day, or even your life. It could be an answer to a prayer, or just a nod from God reminding you that he is there. Well, we recently had our own God wink. Brandy took the lead with choosing a crematorium. Not a fun task. And of a list of over 100, she basically threw a dart and picked one. Well, this past Tuesday, I drove Mom to pick up Dad's ashes, and as we rolled up to the small office building on Claremont Mesa Boulevard, it struck Mom. The modest office building that we had just parked in front of was the same place where Dad's first Y office was located when they moved to San Diego in 1980. And what's more, as we looked at the map to find the suite we were headed to, right there in the same building was Top Gun Basketball Academy. Pretty cool. And as the days roll by, Dad will live on through each of us. Through Brandy teaching Scarlett her spin move in the driveway. Through me teaching Zoe how to sing in the shower. And through all of us teaching them business sense through the simple analogy of a lemonade stand. Thanks for that, Dad. I love you.
Dear Dad, how do I figure out a lifetime of things I want to say to you in 8 minutes? Especially when I know you'd roll over in your grave if I didn't make sure we had a timed agenda and stayed on schedule. You're a visionary, strategic mastermind, larger than life. You are all of these things to me too. But you also always manage to be just Dad, teaching me, training me, loving me, and just being with me. You taught me how to play catch, and made sure I learned how to dribble with my right and my left hand. But you also were the one who painted my fingernails. When I'd ask you to come rebound for me, right here at this Y, you were never too busy. And when you have a gym rat for a daughter like me, that is a lot of time, Dad. You taught me how to bait my own hook and clean my own fish, but keep my elbows off the dinner table. You clothed me almost entirely in YMCA t-shirts, but would never let me leave the house without earrings in. You taught me how to lift weights and be strong, but also reminded me not to let my knuckles drag on the ground. You traveled a good amount, Dad, but always brought back presents. You could make receiving hotel shower caps, shampoos, soaps, and lotions so fun. People say the bond between a father and daughter is special. Dad, I would say the bond between you and I would better be described as kindred spirits. A kindred spirit, Dad, means that you share so much more with someone than the average person. You share almost everything in common, as if they represent the other half of your soul. It is no secret that we loved talking about our work, which is really better described as a shared calling. Do you remember the time I asked you before you were going to give a big speech what you were going to say? Or if you were ready? You said, yeah, I'm going to say the same thing I said last time. No one ever remembers what you say. So often, your humility was your brilliance, and your brilliance was your simplicity. You had a commanding presence. When you walked into any room and you would take the podium, you could hear a pin drop, even though you did use the same words, the same key phrases every time. Your genius repetition helped to create a culture, to empower the understanding that you may have been leading your why, but your top guns ran the why. Your calling was to make miracles happen in the lives of people. And you recognized that was a calling larger than any one person, so that is how you led. Your impact far exceeded the podium. I am so humbly proud that the plentiful letters, calls, and condolences coming to our family are sharing with us the impact of their mentor. Calling you a mentor, Dad, is a title with such depth because it demonstrates a deeply personal, soul-touching, and heart-moving impact you had on kids to CEOs, across industries, and across the country. Now, you were not perfect, and working or living with you was not for the faint of heart. Alfredo reminded me of one of your key sayings just this week. Results, results. You were direct, brutally honest, and patience was definitely not one of your virtues. But that, combined with your fierce loyalty, vision, generosity, and caring, humility, and authenticity, made you the best of the best. Now, you did not get the same larger-than-life respect at home. Dad, and when you forgot that, I'd remind you, Dad, you are the CEO of the YMCA. You are not the CEO of this house. As a rookie program director, I would get asked by colleagues if you'd talk about eagles flying with eagles at the dinner table or call Chris and I Top Guns. I guess at home is where the Brooklyn street kid in you was free to come out without it becoming an HR issue. You'd tell me, no blood, no foul. But you were teaching me resilience and toughness. When faced with a decision, you'd say, if someone had a gun to your head, what would you do right now? You were teaching me to be decisive, confident, and to trust my gut. You'd say, show no emotion, to teach me to lead with my head, but to follow my heart. The devil you know is better than the devil you don't know, to remind me the value of loyalty and relationship building. I listen, Dad. So much so, Mom regularly tells me, you are more like your father than your father. Your lessons like these instilled a pride and a confidence in me that have made me so proud to share your calling and carry forward your life sentence. While following in your footsteps, I've never once felt I was in your shadow, because while you raised me to be proud of my last name, you also made me just as proud of my first. Although I know you still walk right beside me, Dad. My heart breaks wide open right now, where I can fully feel my love, pride, and admiration combined with great sorrow. You are 77 years young, took impeccable care of your spirit, mind, and body. I thought we'd have at least 10 more earthly years together where you could continue to train and teach me, and I could continue to humble you as only a daughter can. but we do not pick our timing, and I am blessed to have a father who left me with 3 lifetimes of life lessons and total unconditional love to carry with me. You are a man who saw the world just a little differently than everyone else. Where others saw an unsolvable problem, you were able to see creative solutions. You continued giving even after you left this world. You were a donor, and there was someone in need of your eyes. I find comfort in knowing that there is still a person walking this earth, seeing the world through Rich Collato's eyes. I will forever remember the last time we spent together, Dad, the night before God called you home. It was getting late. Mom had just headed to bed after urging you to join her. But you stayed in the living room, sitting in your chair, as I sat on the couch next to you. You started to get up a couple of times, but sat back down. I don't know if it was because you were in pain and needed more time to gather your strength, or you sensed that this was our last time together. Maybe both. We sat there together in the stillness and the quiet for several minutes until you did finally get up. I followed you to your bedroom, helped you into bed, and I don't remember what smart-ass thing you said, but my 38-year-old self felt inclined to belly flop into bed right in between you and Mom, hugging you both with each of my outstretched arms. I will forever cherish that memory, Dad, and the words Jeff Bowman's son said when he spoke at his father's memorial were ringing in my ears. When you hug the ones you love, never be the first one to let go.
Hard to say anything other than wow. Brandy and Chris, thank you. There's nothing sweeter than hearing comments from your kids, and you guys make your dad proud. You know he loves you, and he would be blessed to hear those great words that you have to say. And like Amos said at the beginning, we're here to cry with you. So receive that. It's hard to cram a life into a 4-hour program. So we're going to cut a few things just a little short, because Rich would want that, right? Be on time. There's a story in the bulletin that I hope you read or have already read about Rich's life. And I just call your attention to it because it's really inspiring. And it calls to mind for me some of the, when God winks at you, idea that I don't know if Rich realized at the time when he was arrested for vandalizing a subway train. I don't think he realized at the time that God showed up right there for him in the way of an arresting officer, in the way of his dad who grabbed him by the neck, in the way of a judge who gave him a couple alternatives, in the way of a YMCA leadership that embraced him and helped him to see life a little differently. God showed up for Rich. And in that moment, there was a life-changing experience, and we got to see it and be a part of it. You mentioned troublemaker. He was a troublemaker, and if were it not for God showing up at that moment, he would have been probably a pretty good-sized troublemaker. But God changed him, and so the result is we got to see the Rich Collato that God made and the impact that he's made on all of us. So read that story. It's really incredible, and it shows what one man can do when surrounded, as Kathy said, by people who have the like mission and want to attract and are attracted to each other to accomplish a like goal. Rich always referred to us as Top Guns, the best of the best, and that was his way of saying that he really appreciated and valued us. But behind all of that was the concept of a servant, being a servant leader. And it's already been mentioned several times today. I just want to let you know that in tribute to Rich, the YMCA of San Diego will be adopting an annual Rich Collato Servant Leadership Award. And that's intended to be awarded to one exempt level staff person annually to encourage and carry forward the leadership principles that Rich instilled in this Y under his leadership. The award reads this: in recognition of a staff person who exhibits humility, mission focus, entrepreneurship, sound business acumen to further the Y mission, values, and impact. The Y leader displays passion and commitment to our mission and promise to be accessible to all so that every person can get a Y experience, because every kid deserves a Y experience. To commemorate that, the Collato family has pledged $5,000 a year for the next 29 years, representing Rich's tenure here. And that'll go to the branch of the recipient of that award. And they can use that for program development at their discretion. Speaking of money, some of you have already noticed that there's a Rich Collato Memorial Fund to be used more for aquatics, because Rich was a white-knuckled kid at the pool. And so far to date, some of you have contributed to that, bringing the total to a little over $78,000 towards helping kids have that Y experience in the pool. And so we thank you for that. Family thanks you for that. So, Mr. Chapel, come on back up. Thank you again for all of you for being here and for your support of the Collato family. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Bill. Got to gather myself here. You guys are awesome. You did such a great job. We got a couple housekeeping things here to share with you. So when we adjourn after our last speaker and have the benediction, that will be the end of the program, and we can move toward a area over here where we're going to have social time and refreshments. We got some of Rich's favorite foods there for you. There's a couple of venues that you might want to pay attention to. We're going to have a video tribute. We've got 6 people that have been identified that we're going to speak and toast to Rich, short little vignettes. And then we've also got we had a lot of requests for people to speak, and we're trying to figure out how to do all those and not keep you here all night. So at the same time we're having our social, we've got a video booth where you can go, anybody who wants to, and speak to the family, tell a story about Rich, whatever you'd like to do. It'll be videotaped and it'll be given to the family, as this whole program is, for their keeping. So we hope that you'll stick around for a while, enjoy each other's company, say hi to the family, and at this time we're going to have our final speaker up, a wonderful guy. Have you ever known a person who they'd come into the room and the whole room just lights up? That's Ken Druck, or Ken Blanchard. It's Ken Druck too. Ken Blanchard. Ken is such a entertaining guy, such a wonderful person. He's got a company called the Ken Blanchard Company. Ken, how did you come up with that unique name? I bet you he doesn't have anybody that asked him, what's the name of your company, a second time. It's, pretty smart. Ken is he's got an amazing thing. I'd recommend that you just Google the website and see the things that are going on. This is a international, well-renowned company that's doing so many great things in leadership and it's right here in San Diego. So take a look at that. There's so much resource there. It's absolutely incredible. We talked about servant leadership, situational leadership. Ken Blanchard is the guy who put so much of that together. He's an amazing guy. We're going to give it just a few more minutes because what Ken has to tell us is well worth the time. Ken Blanchard, come forward, please.
My sense is, why don't you all stand up for a second, just to stretch. You've probably been sitting too darn long. Your butts are tired. Well, it's good to be here with you all to celebrate a great life. And Rich was a special person, but he was a real servant leader. And so what they've asked me to do is kind of talk to Rich about his leadership and what he did there. And so that's going to be my focus. And it's really interesting with Rich modeling servant leadership, because there was another guy that kind of modeled that. His name was Jesus. And it's interesting what he told his disciples, and Rich and I often shared this: not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be your slave, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. So, pretty good model of servant leadership that Rich had. You know, when I talk to people about servant leadership, the initial thought is I'm talking about the inmates running the prison or trying to please everybody or some kind of religious movement. And they don't understand that you can lead and serve at the same time. Rich understood that because he understood that there's really two aspects of servant leadership. The leadership aspect is about vision, direction, values, and goals. And then implementation is the servant part, which is how do you get everybody on tune with that vision and direction. When Rich became president and CEO of the YMCA of San Diego, he set a vision. He wanted to not only get the Y out of bankruptcy, but he wanted to build it into one of the biggest and strongest YMCAs in the country. And he had a vision from that right from the beginning. He wanted, as Brandy said, to make miracles happen in the lives of people, and that was for sure. And he did that by focusing on the implementation aspect of servant leadership, the servant aspect. His people meant everything to him, as if you've heard. He felt you hire good people, cheer them on, and get out of their way. And he wanted to produce eagles who could fly above the crowd. One of his favorite richisms, and people talked about richisms, was eagles fly with eagles. And when people talked about that, I immediately thought about Isaiah 40:31. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. And Rich really just loved that Bible quote. Rich always laughed when I talked about ducks, you know, and that's what happened when you get self-serving leaders who want to think it's all about them, and you try to get a problem solver when they're quacking like crazy. Quack, quack, it's our policy. Quack, quack, I just, you know, I didn't make the freaking rules. Quack, 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 quack. And Rich actually loved one of my favorite stories. When I travel, I have this thing I put around my neck. I call it my geezer pouch. And in it, I put my license, my passport if I need it, itinerary, anything else. And I go around the airport, what do you want and all. And one day I loaded that beauty and I left it on my desk at home. And I pull into the airport in San Diego and I realized I got no official identification and I got to get on the plane. This is 2 years after 9/11, so a little uptight about who you are. So the only book I've ever written that I got my picture on the cover is I wrote one with Don Shula, the old Miami Dolphins football coach, called Everyone's a Coach. And I went into the bookstore and excuse me, in the airport, and they happened to have a copy, so I bought it. So the first airline I had to go to was Southwest, and the guy said, "Could I see your identification?" I said, "I'm sorry, I don't have a license or a passport." "How is this?" And I held the book up. The guy shouts, "This guy knows Don Shula. Put him in first class." I mean, they didn't even have business select then, and they're high-fiving me on the street. "Hey, yeah, you know, you got to know Shula." There's an old guy there that says, "I know the guard's there, I'll get you through there." And he did. He was unbelievable. The next day I had to go to a different airline, and I'm out in the street checking my bag, and the guy said, "Could I see your identification?" I held the book up, and the duck doo-doo started to fly. And he said, "Quack, you better show it to the ticket counter." And I showed the woman there, and she says, "Quack, you better talk to my supervisor." And we call the supervisory duck the head mallard, you know, because they quack at a higher level. Pretty soon I'm talking to a guy in a suit and a tie. And I said, "You really think I superimposed my picture on this picture to get by you?" Quack, 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 quack. And so Dick, Rich really loved that story, you know, all about the ducks. But he was excited about, producing eagles. So the folks he worked with were, as has been said, the best of the best, second to none, Top Gun. I mean, that's what he really wanted. As a true servant leader, Rich felt that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And I love, he used to say, 1 + 1 = 3 for the community. A number of years ago, I wrote a book with Mark Miller, who was the head of training and development at Chick-fil-A. And the title of the book was Serve, with a subtitle. And this book could have been written about Rich, because he did everything. And the subtitle was what great leaders like Rich Collato know and do. And we introduced in that an acronym called SERVE, which to me depicts beautifully the way Rich ran his life and led people. And so S in the acronym says, see and shape the future. And boy, he really had a vision for the why and where he wanted to go and all. E stands for engage and develop others. Wow, was that something that he was really interested in? You better believe it. R is reinvent continuously. He wasn't afraid to make changes if they were necessary, and he was flexible that way. V stands for value both results and people. It wasn't just people, it was results and people. He was a both-and guy. And then finally, E is to embody the values. And boy, did he walk the talk. I don't know anybody who walked the talk any better than Rich. So we lost not only a great person in Rich Collato, but a great servant leader. And where is Rich now? Well, I want to use a golf analogy. He's in the clubhouse, and I can see him in there drinking vodka on the rocks, and every once in a while putting a little gin in there and chatting with old buddies. You know, we're all here. All of us are still out in the course. We don't know how many holes the Lord's going to give us to play, but we all know, I guarantee you, that eventually we're going to be in the clubhouse with Rich and reunited in a fabulous way. And so that's really exciting. So what I'd like to do is close with a prayer first for Rich. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the unique gifts of Rich. We thank you for the image of you which we saw in him, the love we received from him, and the memories that we cherish of him. May we be filled with the strength and courage to entrust him with you and in your hands forever. God bless. And for all of us, may I pray, the Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. The Lord lift up his countenance unto us and give us peace this day and forevermore. So God bless you, Rich. You were fabulous. You've made a difference in our lives and everywhere you've gone. What a special, special day. And bless your family, Kathy, and you all. It's just fabulous. God bless.
Okay, we're going to let the family kind of lead the way here, so just relax for a few minutes as they get over here. Avoid the stampede to the bar, I guess you'd say. So we'll let them go, and then just work your way here to the left. And we look forward to seeing everybody and socializing together. Thank you very much for being here.